So,
who's going first?
you know you're going first. Don't even play. Don't even play, Miss Big Bow hair scarf. Which, by the way, when she told me that she had a hair scarf that she was trying to tie, I visually saw in my mind the Victorian hair necklaces and reeds. Because, by the way, no. By the way, in Victorian times, this is unrelated, I think, to what we're talking about. I don't actually know. They used to make wreaths and bracelets and necklaces from the deceased
and brooches
hair and brooches. They were obsessed to like hair art, which I mean it was like their version of friendship bracelets, because you know, like that like plastic cording that you like loop around a bunch of times.
Stop.
That's how they did it. Like, but see, then now you're visualizing it with me. Okay, now she's telling me I'm having trouble tying my hair scarf, and I am visualizing like
a fucking hairy scarf.
Just like a mass of extensions, like, you know, those like ponytail extensions, but like connected to your head and wrapped around you, and you're trying to tie it. So I'm like visualizing you braiding it. I was having like a horrific vision of this, and then you were like, no, a scarf to tie around my head for my hair, like a hair accessory. And I was like, oh, thank goodness, because I was experiencing horrifying things that now I've, you know, subjected everybody else to, because that's what
kind of person you are. Yes. Also, we don't live in Victorian times. Why the fuck would that be the first thing that you think of?
Are really about Queen Victoria and the goth vibe.
Not
so
that
I
much.
Just,
also,
you paint
I'm not
dead
that gothy.
Animal skulls. You have
are you adding me right now? Stop
the next thing
I'm trying
for
to get
you
people
to do
from work to listen to this. Stop it. They already.
Wait, that's normal.
No, they already made fun of me about the stupid ketchup on rice comment that you made in our very first fucking episode. So many people. So get ready, because I'm going to share embarrassing things about you too.
Well, that's what sisters do.
It's alright. I feel better now that I got to annoy you so much earlier before we started recording.
I love that I can be here for you in that way, because often you are here for me in that way, so it's nice to have the roles reversed from time to time.
So, I'm here to talk to you today about tarot cards.
Ah, lovely.
I actually had a lot of fun. Well, okay, in the beginning I didn't have that much fun doing research, because it was really boring, because I was looking up like the history part. Mm-hmm. So, since it was super boring, I'm probably not going to go super into the like old history.
Okay.
The first documented actual like tarot cards or tarot decks were from about 1440 to 1450 in Italy. Guess what they were?
What?
Regular playing cards. Just also with an additional set of allegorical illustrated cards. So there's 21 of them.
So you're talking like spades, clubs, diamonds, hearts, plus 22 extra cards? And that was like a game that they would play? Like that they would do?
Yes.
What?
Yes. So the deck of cards that we know that we like play rummy and shit with,
yeah,
it all came from the same deck that tarot came from. So it's just like regular playing cards, but with an additional set of the allegorical cards, which is
it's like
21.
all the extra Pokemon that you didn't know were a part of the deck. I'm just saying.
The allegorical cards are called I can't pronounce Italian anything, so Carte da Trionfi? Triumph cards, okay? And the suits were cups, swords, coins, and polo sticks, or what is known today in like the tarot card world as wands or staves. And then there were the courts, which it consisted of a king and 2 other male underlings. Later, they added the queen, hopefully because somebody realized that even in an imaginary card world of only men, the world would end in flames. So, you need a woman in there. Make sure that shit, like, stays top notch. So the additional allegorical cards were simply known as trionfi, or trump cards in English, And so if you have the Triomphe cards and the Fool, it's a 78 card deck, which is what the tarot decks consist of now. So the suit cards, the regular deck of cards, is called the Minor Arcana. I think it's Arcana. I say Arcana. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? And then the Triomphe cards are the Major Arcana, and those are the allegorical cards, right? So in the 1500s, the deck of cards became known as Tarocchi Appropriati.
Mia.
I feel like Mario. Anyways, so the game itself was played a lot like bridge. So in this game, or a game that they use the tarot cards for, the players are dealt random cards and then used them to write quote-unquote poetic verses about each other. Kind of like the kids' game MASH.
What?
Yes. Also, do you remember?
Tarot is MASH?
Yes. It was sophisticated MASH, essentially.
Well, if you're like, yes.
Because
I mean, you know, other ways to use it, but like, I did not know that.
Okay, so let's think about MASH real quick. One, do you remember how to play?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mansion, apartment, shack, house.
Yes. Also, I didn't remember how to play, so I had to maybe look it up on Instructables, but we're going to just, like, breeze past
on
that shit.
Instructables?
Yeah.
Did you watch a how-to or a howcast YouTube video? And they're, like, making a cootie catcher, and they're like, this means...
A cootie catcher. I forgot that's what they were called. Also, no, because I'm, like, 90 and hate watching videos.
You are not 90. You are a fresh 35.
I am so offended right now. Bitch, we gonna fight? Ooh!
Wait, how old are you really?
Did you see my eyebrows go into a straight line?
I did.
Yeah.
That's why I hid.
I know.
My reaction was to hide my own eyebrows from you.
As they, like, go up in your goofy little...
I'm just like, don't look at my brows. What are you, 31?
Stop it! God! So, okay, let's think about MASH real quick, okay? So, we all remember folding little cootie catcher and doing the, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever to do that.
Yeah, you gotta pick a color, pick a number, and then you get all your answers.
So, the way that I remember playing was you write mansion, apartment, shack, house, and then you write 4 people that you, or 3 people that you would want to end up with, 3 jobs that you would want to end up with, 3, what else was there?
Okay.
Pets?
I thought it was like, it was like the person you'd end up with,
the job.
The job, maybe a pet.
Oh, location. Location. Where you were going to live.
But they weren't all good. Like,
no.
Was like,
so that's what I'm saying. So you write, the person who's getting the match done about them writes 3, and then your friend fills in the last option with terrible fucking options, right?
Right.
And then, if we think about this game, it was a way for little kids to quote-unquote tell each other their futures.
Yeah.
But people assume that tarot is to tell about your future. So, like...
It's not like it's palm reading.
Exactly. So why do people get so weirded out about it?
That's a very specific science.
If it's a lot like... Okay. Why do people get so weirded out about it, though, if it's like an adult version of the game of fucking MASH?
I don't even know. Wait, but like, why where did that come from?
Honestly, I think it just stemmed from the fact that, like, this game, the Tarocchi Appropriati...
Tarocchi.
Okay. That, the root is that, it was meant to, quote-unquote, tell your future, but it was a game, so it's supposed to be funny. But instead of the game part being funny, that faded away, and what was left was, they're supposed to tell your future kind of thing. Which is dumb, because, I remember playing MASH many a times, and I never ended up marrying any of the Backstreet Boys. So, like, I don't, like, where's this going? So there is this one lady. So she was like the first tarot historian. She was also a lady, so that's cool. She was born in 1905, and she died in 1998. Her name is Gertrude Moakley, and within her research, also she had a 40-year career with the New York City Public Library, but
okay.
So she did a lot of research. She wrote a book, and according to her, she says the illustrations in the major arcana, which is the Fool to the Death card and all those in between, were inspired by costumes of figures who participated in medieval carnival parades, which is interesting. Yes. So in 1966, when she was 61, I did math. Hopefully I'm right.
Look at you doing the math.
I know.
Look at you.
Yeah. She published a book called Tarot Cards Painted by Bonifacio Bembo. Wow, that was terrible. Okay, good. Another historian is quoted as saying, for the first time, tarot was set in its medieval context without the distraction of irrelevant occult theories. Moakley said on more than one occasion that she appreciated the beauty and the complexity of symbolism, but she deplored how occult theories and mythology had contaminated tarot history. Which, like, girl, same.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I love stuff occult, too, but, like, it's such a unique tool that I feel like so many people can use.
Yeah.
And it just overpowers it because everybody assumes that it's something weird or you're going to get ghosts or demons or some dumb shit. Like with my friend who was like, I don't want to read the tarot cards because I don't want to bring that juju into my house. And I'm thinking to myself, I bought my tarot cards. Well, Mom bought them for me, but she ordered them for me off of Amazon. Do you think there's some dude in the Amazon warehouse that's just like, oh, okay, we made this deck of cards. Let me just put a curse on it real quick so that anybody who uses it's going to summon all the demons.
Spoiler alert, he's not in the warehouse, but he is the CEO. Oh, he might have just resigned. I don't remember.
I think he just resigned. That makes sense, though. Coming from the top. Anyways.
It's a trickle-down effect.
Yeah, so for me, it's just like, come on. Like, anyways. So, okay, one little more tidbit about this cute little lady who was a tarot historian. In
Gertrude.
1980... Yes, Gertrude. In 1989, she was living in a retirement community. She was 94 years old, and she did a talk on tarot cards for the other residents of the community, and then read cards for the residents who wanted them done.
Aww.
At 94.
Gertrude.
Isn't that the cutest little thing you've ever heard?
I want her to read my cards.
Mm-hmm.
That's very sweet.
Well, she's not alive anymore, probably, because that was in 1989, but...
You never know. Gertrude could be going still.
It's those cursed decks, I tell you. Keeping her alive.
I know. Everyone thinks it's like the Fountain of Youth or other weird things. Nope, truly, it's Gertrude and tarot, folks.
Oh my god, wait, I just thought about it. My dumbass was like, oh, Trudy. And then I was like, oh my god, is every girl who's named Trudy, her name is actually Gertrude? Does everybody else know this? And
that's the first time that thought occurred to me.
Okay. I'm glad it also just occurred to you,
but
too.
But now if I ever meet another Trudy, I'm going to be like, is your full name Gertrude?
Wait, have you ever met a Trudy?
Yeah, a couple times.
Oh, I haven't. At least I don't think so. Maybe I just immediately forgot her.
I don't know.
So the first person to, like, put this mystical meaning onto it was this guy named Antoine Court de Gabin. He's French, so you would have to say that properly.
Okay, I'd have to see it spelled, and also I'm not French, so no guarantees.
You speak French. Anyways, so he claimed it was based on a holy book written by Egyptian priests and brought to Europe by gypsies from Africa.
Well, that sounds
inaccurate.
Like a load of bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah, inaccurate, and obviously tarot cards predated the presence of gypsies in Europe, who actually came from Asia rather than Africa. Really wrong. So there's this other guy, Atelier, who's also French, who echoed Gebelin, I'm just going to say Antoine, whose beliefs echoed Antoine's with, like, secret Egyptian wisdom. Now, keep in mind, at this time, everybody was, like, obsessed with mummies. Like, they literally...
What time was this? When are we?
Late 18th century.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Obsessed with them. They're literally digging up mummies, grinding them into powder, and selling it as medicine at this time in history. Yeah, you didn't know about that?
I did not know about that.
Oh my god, I was gonna do a topic about that, but there just wasn't like enough for like a full topic. But yeah, people really did that.
Crazy.
That's why there's not that many mummies left, because
what?
Victorian people literally ground them up and ate them as medicine.
Y'all, like, Victorian style houses are cute and all. Gothic, sure, I like it as an architecture form, and let's wear black. But, like, the shit that comes out of, like, Victorian era stuff, just like the hair scarf, just like this,
The
it's
hair scarf wasn't
horrifying.
real. That was in your head.
It existed ephemerally. And my point still stands. It's like, how was this popular to do? And everyone was like, yeah, it's what's in right now. Gonna share it on my TikTok.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So yeah, people are like, ooh, mummies, mystical, magical medicine.
Ooh,
and
mummies.
when
Mystical.
really, yeah, exactly. When they're really just a bunch of cannibals eating.
You're snorting dead people. Like, that's
Yeah.
disgusting.
Well, they weren't snorting it, I don't think. Actually, now I don't know.
But you're seeing it. They've
Ugh.
got their hair necklaces on.
stop
They're
it.
wearing all black, and they're just going, oh my god. Sorry, everybody.
All right, we're going to get off the gross topics because I'm starting to feel the heebie-jeebies.
So people are
Heebie-jeebies.
grinding up mummies, and they think it's really
Yeah.
cute and fun.
Yeah, so they think that ancient Egyptians had all this secret ancient wisdom, hence why they wanted to eat them.
Jesus Christ.
And, like, at this time, yeah, ancient Egyptian religion and any writings were believed to have held major insights to human existence, right? So this dude, Atelia, claims that the cards originated from the Egyptian book of Thoth.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
It is.
Okay.
Belonging to the god of wisdom, and he published his own deck in 1789. I'm sorry, what? Are you laughing at my bow?
I was horrified for half a second. I was like, Sarah, don't say dick. Like, it's just a very long story to tell you that he made
In fact,
dick
he
pic.
was the first guy to come up with a dick pic. Incorrect. I think they've been
I
around
was
since like
honestly shocked.
fucking...
I was like, oh no.
Yeah, so he was the original dick pic person, which is probably incorrect. I feel like that's something the Romans would have done. Anyways.
Oh yeah. Fucking,
Right?
Ugh. But they were all, but never mind. I'm not gonna get into it.
Yep. So
Deck. So it was a deck of cards we're talking about.
He published his
cards.
own deck. Yes, his deck of tarot cards in 1789, and it was one of the first decks to be designed for divination. Okay. Also,
divination deck.
Ugh. Now, anytime I say deck, I'm just gonna think dick. Like,
Okay,
why'd
no,
you do
but-
this to me?
No. But like, I'm gonna reset here. Okay. In my dream house, when we play MASH later, I want to have a divination deck. You know, like instead of a widow's walk, I want like a divination deck.
Okay, so yeah, it's the first divination deck. However, it's just one type of deck. I can't anymore. It's just
Set.
one type.
Set.
It's-
Just say set.
It's
I
just
spit all
one-
over myself. I'm so sorry.
I saw that as you pull up your whole shirt to wipe your face. Jesus. So it was. It's. I just can't. Oh my god. It's just one type of card collection that is used for divination. Others include common playing cards.
What?
I know, right? They're also used for divination and oracle decks, which are, like, they're decks of cards that are designed by the artist specifically with their own, like, theme or, like,
Right.
inspiration in mind, right?
Yeah.
And they're a lot of times they're similar to tarot, but they're distinct.
Right.
They're not completely like tarot, because tarot has a lot of fucking cards. Like 78, that's a lot. 78. 78 cards.
No, I'm aware. I was just thinking, I was like, I wonder how many cards are in my Oracle deck, because it's a lot. I don't know if I
wonder if it's 52.
No, I think it's more. I want to say it's like, it's got to be up there. It's a thick deck. It's like, I can't, my little hands can't even shuffle it.
No, stop! I can't stop thinking. You said deck. It's a thick deck. My little hands can't even shuffle it. That's what she fucking said. Oh my god.
Or he, or they.
So, what people consider to be the most popular tarot deck is called the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, or the Pamela Coleman Smith illustrated Rider-Waite. Originally, it used to be just called the Rider-Waite deck.
Who's
named
Rider
after.
and Waite?
Yeah, so Rider is the publisher, so he didn't even really do shit. And then Waite was he was a mystic of the Order of the Golden Dawn.
Oh god, that sounds like a fucking
Yeah, it's like
cult?
a weird cult conspiracy theory group, whatever.
Oh, okay. Never heard of one of those before.
Yeah. So this deck has been continually printed since 1909. So it's been more than 100 years, and this has never been out of print. And Moakley, Gertrude, our friend Gertrude, yeah, she was the first author historian to respect Pamela Coleman Smith, who was the illustrator. This chick, she illustrated 78 fucking pictures for this deck.
And it's not called the Smith Tarot deck?
Now it is, but it wasn't until very recently.
Yo.
Right? So I looked up on Amazon, and most people call it the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, adding her last still.
That's what I'm saying. It's like Smith is before them alphabetically.
Should be like,
so,
it should be
even
like,
in that sense, like it should be fucking first.
It should
and
be
also,
Smith, Waite, Rider. Like, who cares about the publisher? Why does the publisher have to have his name in the deck? Anyways.
Yeah, he can have a little like C in a circle published by on the back, on the bottom.
Exactly.
You know.
Okay, so Pamela Coleman Smith, our wonderful illustrator who did all of 78 of these images, right? Mm-hmm. She was born in 1878 in London to a Jamaican mother and a white American father. So I have heard of Pamela Coleman Smith before, by the way.
Oh.
In another podcast. And, you know, part of that podcast was talking about how they erased her from history because she was a woman. But in that podcast, they don't mention that she was born to a Jamaican mother and she's black. And nobody knows. Like, what the actual fuck?
And they're like, oh, yeah, we just erased her from history. No big deal.
Yeah. And then it's like, oh, we'll bring her back into history, but not, let's not bring up the fact that, you know, she's not white. We'll just pretend that she is.
It's like, this is why, you know, until the aliens destroy our network of electronic garbage. I know I sound like a crazy person right now, but basically, until an asteroid hits the planet, like, use the internet and all of the free knowledge that is out there up as much as you can. Like, this is the shit that, this is why, this is stuff that, like, fires me up about the podcast specifically, because I'm like, this is stuff that we need to know. And it's annoying that, like, I mean, I'm thinking about you literally went to art college and paid to go to art college. Did you hear about her then?
No, that was the other thing that pissed me off. And, like, yeah, I learned about Georgia O'Keeffe. I didn't even learn about her at art school, actually, because she was a fine art painter and I was an illustration major. But, like, it's just one of those things that, like, people just, it just really bothers me.
No, but that's how things are taught in school, which is why it's like, if you have the resources to get on the internet, like, fucking look shit up, man. Like, just, it's so annoying. It's so annoying.
That's what we do all the time.
Oh, I know.
Pamela Coleman Smith, a.k.a. Pixie, her nickname. She attended art school in New York City at the Pratt Institute. She left, however, in 1897, 79, she would have been 1 year old, without a degree after the death of her mother.
Oh, geez.
Her father, and then her father also died 2 years later when she was 21.
Oh my gosh.
So this girl went through some shit. So when she returned to England after all that shit, she decided to join a traveling theater group.
Aw.
And during her travels, she became a skilled costume and set designer.
Yes.
So she, over her years of working and stuff like that, she developed her own style as an illustrator. And her works were her artwork was used by Bram Stoker and William Butler Yeats, who I will admit I don't know. I think they're poetry artists? No. Wait, what's it called?
Poets?
Oh my god, what's wrong with me? Woo!
Poets?
Yep, poets. In 1907, okay, so this one kills me too. Her friend and photographer / art promoter Alfred Stieglitz gave Smith exhibition space for her collection of paintings.
Stieglitz?
So he's a really famous photographer.
I was going to say, you said that very,
because he's really well known in the art world. He's a very famous photographer. It's also, I mean, I love Georgia O'Keeffe, and I went to her museum that's in New Mexico, and he was really good friends with her, too. So, and they're both really well known, and yet Pamela Coleman Smith is not. What the fuck? But anyways, so he gave her exhibition space for a collection of her paintings, which is a pretty big deal, because at that time, the work in his gallery, he was primarily focused on photography, because it was a, new up-and-coming technology. Works that did not sell remained with Stieglitz and ended up in the Stieglitz-Georgia O'Keeffe archive at Yale University. And this was in 1907.
Yeah.
So she was her late 20s.
Okay.
Yeah. So in 1901, William Butler Yeats, who she illustrated one of his books for him of poetry. He introduced her to his friends in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn.
Ugh.
Yeah, I know, right? Which, when I think of that, I just think of fucking Moriarty from Sherlock, because that's where I remember hearing that. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And at some point during her experience, she also met another poet and mystic, Edward Waite. So, about 8 years later, Waite commissioned her to do the artwork for a new tarot deck that he was interested in creating. Waite wanted to see a tarot deck in which every single card was illustrated, not just the allegorical cards. So the allegorical cards, the 22? Anyways, the little like the Fool, Death, the Lover, the Devil, all those cards. Those are allegorical cards, and they were always illustrated. However, the deck of cards that we think of as a regular deck of cards that is also included in the tarot deck, they were never illustrated themselves individually. Probably because that was a lot of work, because it was like 78 fucking cards. So, up until this point, that hadn't been done, and he wanted to do that.
Oh, no, he wanted somebody else to do it for him.
Well, yeah, that's true.
He didn't actually want to do it.
Before this, the only known example of a fully illustrated deck was called the Solabusca deck, which was commissioned by another rich family in Milan in the 1490s. And Smith actually used this deck for her inspiration, and there are a lot of similarities in the symbolism between the two decks, because she used it to help her create all of the fucking illustrations for 78 fucking cards. That's just intense to me.
That is intense.
Yes. So Smith was the first artist to create characters representing the images in the lower cards, rather than just showing a group of cups or a group of coins or a group of wands, right? And get this. She completed the art for the deck in 6 months. 78 cards, 78 paintings, because she liked to use gouache, which is like watercolor but opaque. And she did 78 of these paintings in 6 months, which is a really short amount of time.
So it's she had to have been sitting on this, right? It had to have been an idea that, she's doing poetry, illustrations, she's doing her own books. She's working with these other people. It's like, how do we not know that it was actually her idea? And she was like, hey, by the way, if you ever want a tarot deck illustrated. And he was like, I came up with this brilliant idea, and I'm going to have her do it for me.
They were friends for like 8 years. So, like, I'm sure it was brought up multiple times.
It had to have been an ongoing conversation, because you don't just whip that. I mean, or you could. But also, if she did that...
Wait.
You don't just whip that out. Yeah,
yep,
I know.
Okay.
In less than 6 months. But then I'm also trying to give her credit, because it's like, what if she did, and then we also still don't know about her and her amazing artistic prowess? Like, are you kidding?
Either way, it's impressive.
It's
honestly.
very impressive.
Yeah. So, this is where it starts to get rough, okay? When she did these illustrations, he just paid her a flat fee. She received no commission on the sales.
I'm sorry, did you just say they were friends?
Uh-huh. And,
that's not very nice or friendly.
Nope. And so, although she continued to produce illustrations, including several for the war effort in World War I, she didn't make much money from her artwork and never earned royalties for her tarot images. Never.
Yo.
Never.
Yeah, I can't.
Although her work was popular, she never gained, like, mass commercial success. And probably also not helped by the fact that she wasn't even fucking mentioned in the tarot deck that has been in print for more than 100 years, by the way.
I just can't. That's...
So, she died penniless in Cornwall in September 1951, which is fucking depressing. Afterwards, her personal effects, including unsold artwork, were auctioned off to settle outstanding debt.
That's insane. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I mean, this is, like, the thing about tarot, though, it's like, it's so specific, and I can visualize that deck. It's like, I know exactly what those cards look like. I didn't know it was called the Rider whatever, or that they...
Rider-Waite-Smith, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was called, and I knew nothing about where the illustrations come from, but it's like, I have seen that all over the place for years, and to not know anything about her, like, that's like a I'm trying to think of, like, what to compare it to. Yeah. Where you're just robbing someone of credit. Like, that is literally robbing them of credit, of for sure. Royalties. Of,
and it was easy back then because she was a woman and a woman of color in the fucking late 19th century, early 20th century. So, like,
that's another thing. It's like, but if Georgia O'Keeffe, it's like, now it's just can of worms everywhere.
Yep. All the worms everywhere.
I just have so many questions. I'm like...
So, this deck was specifically designed for divination, and it included a book written by Waite, the quote-unquote author, to explain
the Golden Hermetic...
The Golden Dawn guy, yeah.
Okay.
To explain the esoteric meaning behind the images.
Nah.
While the deck was popular, it really took off in popularity when Stuart Kaplan obtained the publishing rights and developed an audience for it in the early 70s. And this book helped renew interest in card reading with his book that he published called Tarot Cards for Fun and Fortune Telling. Ooh. And he went on to write several volumes on tarot. So now we're jumping to today, okay?
Okay.
So I was reading through, like, howstuffworks.com, and, basically what they were saying is the same thing. Focus on yourself, your lessons, your obstacles, etc., stay neutral, i.e. don't come in with, like, preconceived notions, which I think is honestly the most dangerous part of doing tarot with other people, is the preconceived notions. Because then I think that if you come in with that kind of stuff, it doesn't have the maximum benefit for you if you're already thinking all this other stuff. Do you know what I mean?
I am just forever going to use MASH as an example. Like...
Right? Isn't that such a great example?
It just so is. Like, I don't know the next time I'm going to be doing tarot with someone other than you, thanks to COVID. But literally, it's like, the next time should that come up, I'm literally going to be like, okay, so do you have preconceived notions about MASH? Do you believe that, like, you're going to live in a shack with Shaq?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so, like... For those of you who don't know, like, when you pull tarot cards, it's not just like, oh, I pulled this and I see the death card and it's like, oh, that means I'm gonna die tomorrow. Actually, to be honest, I really like the death card because for me that usually signifies the end of something difficult and a new beginning. Like I said, it's really all about your interpretation.
And your perspective, too.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, when you're doing tarot cards, sometimes people do a one-card pull just to see how they're feeling that day. I'll be honest, that's what I do most just because I'm fucking busy. And sometimes I don't have the time to sit down and do the whole thing. But they're different spreads. So the card has its specific meaning to the deck or to your interpretations. And then the position that you put them in is another meaning. So, like, imagine, like, you know, a little horseshoe made up of, like, 7 cards, right? Set on the table in front of you. And the first card means, I think, your past. And then the next card means immediate present, I think. Each card has a different meaning, is obviously what I'm going with.
I'm a 3-card spread kind of
guy.
Dude,
to be honest, me too. It's like...
I'm like, past, present, future, there we go, done. Like...
So I actually... I made my own spread.
Oh, yeah?
For me.
Are you sure?
I think maybe Mom liked to use it too. I would like to think that Mom liked to use it too.
I think she told me about that, actually. Is it like a plus sign?
Yeah, it's just like a little plus sign. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, she did tell me about your spread, actually. I didn't know that until just now.
I came up with it because pulling 7 or the Celtic Cross spread is like 10 fucking cards. That's just too much.
So much.
Like, that's
By the time I get to like the 8th card, I'm like, wait, I forgot what I learned on the 2nd card. Now I've got to go back and relearn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for like my little spread that I invented, you know, the middle card is where you are now. The next card is like where you're trying to get to. The top card is lessons to be learned, which is a little bit more positive than like obstacles.
Right.
The right
opportunities for growth.
Yeah, exactly. The right card is strengths and resources, and the bottom card is potential outcome. And then if I'm like feeling iffy about like I don't know how to get to that potential outcome or what that potential outcome might mean, I just like pull a couple cards. But like I'm also not saying that whatever's in the card is for sure gonna happen. It's just like, hey, if you do all the right things, this is where we can get to, kind of thing, or this is the goal in mind. You know, I was reading through a couple of articles, and you know, one of the articles from Newton Abbey Times in England talk about how millennials in general may be drawn more to tarot, and they say that this is because it's a very visual practice, which like I'm like because they say much like popular apps like Instagram and TikTok and social media, but yeah. I don't know about that. But you can do it alone and you're free of judgment, and it's more like a diagnostic tool, like an X-ray or something that just reflects back on what's actually going on in your subconscious or in your present circumstances, just in a slightly different way, as opposed to like, you know, going to church and confession and hearing about how terrible you are, because
how terrible you are.
Oh my god, I love it. So, the last thing I'm going to talk about is this awesome girl. I say girl, she's a woman because she's our age. So, her name is Jessica Dorr. She has a master's degree in social work, and she is a self-described social worker who uses tarot to talk about mental health, which, like, just love it.
Yes.
So on her Instagram/Twitter, she posts a daily tarot card and pairs it with like mental health advice. She says it's therapeutic, but doesn't claim that it's therapy. Just wants to be able to help and offer people something that's more accessible than actual and cost-effective than actual therapy. And she's quoted as saying, "I'm much more interested in using the cards as tools to have a conversation with people, to open up new perspectives, and use the cards to ask questions," which, like, yes, so much yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is like she asks questions like, okay, what comes up for you when you see this image or when you hear these ideas, which is hilarious because like that's exactly what I do when I do tarot cards with people. I'm like, well, what do you think of when you look at this?
Well, when you were talking about your setup there, I was thinking, or how you like pull a card a day or something because of how long it takes to do a spread. When I was doing my like oracle cards, like literally I would just shuffle it and shuffle it and shuffle it, and then I would stop and then I'd pull a card. And I would always think like, oh, the randomness of it is what makes it special, because it's going to be like a random card and I'm just going to keep shuffling, and then whatever I pull, will be relevant to me. But the thing about those cards is, like, honestly, I'm pretty sure any one of them would have been super relevant.
I'm going to get to that.
If I really looked at it.
Like, my next quote is from her. She says, the cards themselves, depending on what deck you use, have all these symbols and archetypes in them. They are things that show up in Disney movies, folk tales, fairy tales, and there's this deep resonance for people. I.e., what you just said. So like you kind of said, there's so many layered symbols and familiar characters and all these things that we've grown up seeing, that I think it's going to be difficult for somebody to not find meaning in what they pull.
Or yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so a lot of what she's also said, a lot of what shows up in the cards just brings something up for you. You might not know what the card means, but it's almost like the Rorschach ink block test, which I mentioned earlier. What are you seeing here? What is this bringing up for you? It's another way to get people to come out of their rigid narrative, and people enjoy that, along with the mystical, magical element of it, it does make it a little bit more fun, even if really it's just a deck of cards. But we don't necessarily use it in that way. She says it's more compelling for people, and it's interesting, and they feel like they're doing something special. And so the last thing I want to mention, and like honestly that's really what it is for me, is like I have a really difficult time processing my own emotions and thoughts. Sometimes I feel like they're all just like buzzing around, they're like bees, and it's hard to nail anything down into a complete like, this is why I feel like this. And for me, I feel like the tarot helps me get to that subconscious that's too difficult for me to do consciously. It's hard to get to my subconscious consciously, but yeah, you know what I mean.
Well, it's like it's setting that intention when you're taking a moment and you're like, I'm like, exactly, it's like you're setting your intention, you're gonna have this moment, and you're going to you're looking for something.
Well, you're really
specifically,
I mean, you're saying it right now, but you're really taking a moment of mindfulness.
Exactly.
Which is something that's huge right now. People talk about all the time as being a way to help manage your stress and your emotions and your daily life and all that stuff. And that's literally what this is. It's taking a mindful moment for introspection. So this woman, Jessica Dorr, like, also you should check out her Instagram and Twitter. Like, I spent a while like just scrolling through because I really liked everything she had to say. But in then one of the articles about her, they asked, what do you say to skeptics who associate this with fortune telling? And Jessica says, I totally understand that. We have associations with things, and that's how our brains work. But it's good to consider that things might not be exactly what you associate them with, and there are other ways of understanding things. Tarot cards are pieces of paper with images on them to some people. To others, they have deeply spiritual meanings, and to some, they are pieces of paper with images on them that you can use to better understand yourself. My work is geared toward the latter, which, like, I mean, I'm not like a social worker or Instagram famous or anything, but like, same. That's why I use them. And that's why I love
how
them.
it's like social worker and Instagram famous are the same level. You're like, I'm not these things, but I get it.
Neither of those things. But yeah, that's why I use them, and that's why I love them, aside from just appreciating the artwork aspect.
Yeah.
Because, it's a very visual thing, and people really...
It's very aesthetically pleasing.
It is. It's so nice to just, like, sit and look through them and, like... I don't know. It reminds me of, so when I went to art school, they would be like, okay, this is what your assignment is, Got to do a pen and ink drawing, you got to do an underwater creature, and you have to do, like, a horizontal composition or, whatever, or break compositional, like, the composition boundary or something like that. And, like, it was so interesting to me, and it always has been, to see where other people's minds go. And how, with the same instructions... we can all get such different results. And that's how I feel.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's how I feel when I look at, like, all the different tarot decks. Like, there's so many. Like, I had a tattoo tarot deck. I have my All Funds Muka deck, which I love, which is an Art Deco style. You know, I have these ultra modern decks that, like, really, I think, you know, work to lure in the millennial crowd, but it's still very interesting in the different ways. Oh, I have a Santa Muerte deck, and it's so interesting seeing all the different ways that people use this framework to create all this different art and all these different interpretations. It's just, like, it's amazing to me, and I love them so much. So yeah, that's my story, not story, about tarot cards.
Oh, well, it was lovely, and yes, I really enjoyed that.
It's definitely like it's definitely one thing that I'm, like, passionate about. Although I have yet to get a tarot card tattoo, so, you know, there's that.
I'm sure it'll happen eventually. They're very on trend. Once you tell me which tarot card you're gonna get tattooed, then I'm gonna get it tattooed, like, the day before you, because that's my style.
Like the Robin tattoo?
Yeah. I told someone at work today that I was, oh God, how did it come up? I don't know how it came up, but at some point I was like, I did bring that up, of, like, how I've gotten at least 2 tattoos that were your idea first. And I was like, thank you.
Wait, there's just the Robin and then the Clover.
Yeah, I mean, you branded me as a youngster.
I know, it's
You poked a hole in my nose.
I was gonna say, I
stuck a sticker behind my ear.
Oh, we did that at the mall, didn't we? The Altamont Mall.
The nose hole?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was such a great influence on you.
You really were. People to this day are like, oh, you're Irish, aren't you? And I'm like,
What? Yeah, same here. Dude, it happens to me all the time. They're like, oh, you have a Clover tattoo? And I'm like, what? Oh, yeah.
I'm like, oh, shit, yeah.
See, but that's why it's there. Like, we forget about it. Oh my God, he scared the shit out of me. Did you hear that?
I didn't hear it, but I've been watching him jump around in the background for a minute.
Oops.
Oh God, my chair was like.
So I live in a new
tattoos.
Yeah, I live in a new house now, and, you know, I'm trying to get used to the new house strange noises. And I put my cat tree behind me in the living room, and he just jumped off it. But he didn't jump off, like, right by his fucking cat tree. He jumped off and landed about 6 inches behind me.
Oh, my gosh.
And so it sounded like somebody was stepping on the ground right behind me, and I almost died. You almost watched me die. That was what was going to happen.
Okay.
It was just my fluffy kitten. It's fine. Anyways.
Yeah, you didn't die, and I'm very glad about that. Like, dodged a kitten, for sure.
So, do you have a story for me?
Well, we'll see.
I haven't even annoyed you at all today about what you're talking about. So, like, please acknowledge that.
Because you already know.
No, I don't.
Okay. So, today, I am talking about something. I need a better way to, like, introduce my topics, my topics. So, today I'm going to tell you the story of Claire Silvia.
Claire Silvia? Who is this?
She is the first woman in New England who got a combined heart and lung transplant.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
Wait, so combined? That's a lot.
Like, what do you mean?
She had her heart and lungs transplanted at the same time?
Yes.
That's intense.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the 80s.
Oh.
Yeah. I love how you're like, woof, the 80s.
I mean, no, I don't know.
So, I bet you're wondering, why did you wonder about this?
Yes, actually, I am wondering that.
Yeah. Okay, so Mom has a bunch of books on her bookshelf.
Wait, Mom has books?
She has a ton. This just in. We like books.
Yeah.
So I will say that I almost entirely sourced this from books, which I'm very proud of.
I am proud of you. That's impressive.
So easy to use the internet. Also, there really wasn't much about her on the internet.
Really? That's actually surprising.
I also used a Lifetime movie because her story, which is her memoir, it's called A Change of Heart, was actually...
Oh my god, that's such a good title. I love it a lot.
Isn't it, though?
Yes.
Yeah, so it was actually a Lifetime movie called The Heart of a Stranger is what it's called. Oh, and also, guess who's in it?
Who?
Maggie Lawson.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Jules.
Oh my god.
Yes, Jules from Psych is in this movie. She's an interesting character. She plays Claire's daughter, but of course it's different names and it's like based on her stories, so it's a little different, but the same like through line is there. I have had, okay, so I'm going a bit round robin right now, but anyways, so I found out about this book because I can hear him purring.
I was wondering if you could or not.
Aw, little kitty purrs. Meow.
Look at his little face. He's just sitting here and letting me play with his toe beans.
No, he's got cute beans.
He just wants snuggles. Look, he's saying hi.
I see him. He's very high. So one day before I rearranged my room, I had a moment where I'm like, I need to learn things, and I went downstairs and just took all the books that I wanted to read off of Mom's shelf and was like, you'll get these back eventually, also you know where they are, and brought them all upstairs in a giant pile. And one of them was The Art of Healing, which I'm suspicious I got for her for like a birthday or a holiday or something.
Sounds like, yeah, I would lean towards agreeing with you on that one.
Yeah, so I started reading that, and that is by Dr. Bernie Siegel, and he's a general and pediatric surgeon.
I thought you were going to say Bernie Sanders, because that's just where my brain went.
No, another Bernie. Yeah, so Dr. Siegel, he was a general and pediatric surgeon until 1989, and since his retirement, he has dedicated himself to empowering patients in their own healing process and humanizing the approach of patients in the medical field by surgeons.
So, the Bernie Sanders of surgeons.
Yes. Yeah. No, in like the first couple pages, he's like, yo, did you know that surgeons are like mad disconnected from these people? And I was like, well, I was suspicious because I watch a lot of Grey's Anatomy. And he's like, yeah, the surgeons on Grey's Anatomy, like that's like the best you could possibly, well, I mean, anyways, now I'm going in a Grey's Anatomy tunnel.
When you talked about surgeons and being disconnected, my brain went to Scrubs.
Yes.
Where it's very much like a sports thing, like, oh, I did this in this amount of time, not like the person. It was just about the act of the surgery.
Yeah. No, he makes a point where he says that, it bothered him that surgeons like would refer to patients as their ailment or their disease or their what they were, like, oh, I got a gallbladder or I don't know, symptomectomy, hysterectomy down on 4th floor, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Like, they just refer to it as the thing instead of the person.
Yep.
And he basically saw that as that it was harming patients, more than helping them, because they noticed like this distance doesn't help them heal, and no one's there as that intermediate point to really help encourage. What?
So you're saying dehumanizing people doesn't help them?
I know, right? It's shocking.
Sorry. I just couldn't help myself there. Like, come on.
Wild. I know. So his book is really interesting. Of course, in the beginning of his book, he references like 5 other books, so that just sent me right off the edge.
All the books.
Yeah.
I like it.
So yes, all the books. And that's how I found out about Change of Heart by Claire Silvia, because he mentions her in like the first couple of pages. I swear, I just went crazy with the first. I literally have not gotten very far into that book. I got like a chapter in, and I'm like, oh, I've got to look up a bunch of other things now.
So I thought you were actually, when you said you were reading a bunch of books, I thought you were going to be talking about something else.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm. It'll come up another time.
Heard that. All right. So now we're going to talk about Claire Silvia. Okay? So I'm going to give you a little bit of background about her as a person before we get into her story. Okay. So, this is just a small quote. There's going to be lots of quotes, so.
I love quotes. I quoted a lot during my story.
Okay. This is the beginning, the front page. You open the cover, and this is what you see, okay? All my life, I've been told that despite the protests of poets and the murmuring of mystics, the human heart is just a pump. An incredibly important pump, but only a pump. A monotonous, mandatory machine. According to this view, which is the accepted one in contemporary Western medicine, the heart contains no feelings and carries no wisdom, no knowledge, and no memories.
Oh my god, I feel like this is going to be so good. I'm very excited. Continue. I am.
And if one person's heart has previously resided in another person's body, that fact has no particular meaning or implication.
Interesting.
She says, I used to believe these things, but today I know differently.
Dun dun dun!
Okay. That's the star sound from Mario
I know,
Kart.
that's exactly what that is. Yay! Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm very excited and invested right now.
So let's talk about Claire. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about her upbringing. Claire.
Good old Claire Bear.
Oh, Clary the berry. Lord help me. Okay. As a young child, Claire, her mother, and her sister all lived with her mother's parents in the Bronx. Her father was a physician who went overseas with the Army during World War II. And in 1913, her grandparents escaped Tsarist Russia with Claire's mother and came to New York.
Ooh, Tsarist Russia.
Yes, in 1913. And she says that it was a warm and traditional Jewish household, rich in food and good humor, where we celebrated the Sabbath with Friday night dinners at a table crowded with my relatives. In my grandparents' home, dreams were a natural and reoccurring topic of discussion.
Ooh.
This was common, I know, this was common among Russian Jewish immigrants. If you had a dream during the night, you talked about it in the morning.
Also common amongst Puerto Ricans.
True. She also says there's an adage in the Talmud, that an uninterpreted dream is like an unopened letter. In our family, you might say, we always read our mail.
Ooh, I like that quote.
Right?
That's a good one.
So it is. I just like how she put that. We always read our mail every morning.
Whereas in real life, rarely open my mail. Because I'm a great adult.
LOL. I always look up everyone else's dreams. Mine, I wake up and then it fades away into the ether and I'm like, all right.
Oh, no. I meant my literal mail.
Oh, yeah. So in 1942, when Claire was 3 years old, she was diagnosed with a congenital heart murmur. As a child, she would often come down with a cold or a sore throat that would develop into bronchitis or the flu. She suffered from low blood sugar and wasn't really allowed to participate in any sort of vigorous activities or sports at school. She says, during this mostly unhappy childhood, dance was my salvation, my rescuer, my antidote to depression. So at the age of 8, she started dancing, and she danced all through high school and college, and actually went on to become a professional dancer. Despite, her ailments and she described herself as like a rebellious kid, that she's like, okay, sure, I'm not going to do it, but I am.
Yeah. Which, like, who can blame her at that point?
Right. It's like, you might as well work with what you got.
Yep.
So in high school, she took classes at Juilliard. She won a scholarship for a summer program at the Connecticut College for Women, and actually took a class with Martha Graham.
What year was this?
This was in the 40s.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right? No, probably 50s. It had to be in the 50s. I don't know. I don't know the timeline of her high school. But after high school, she went to Adelphi College, which is now Adelphi University on Long Island, which was one of the few schools in the 50s that offered a dance major. So there's the timeline for you. She auditioned for West Side Story. Yeah, she auditioned for, like, the actual Jerome Robbins. and made it to the final 4 of the audition.
Oh my God.
And she told herself, like, after she got cut from the audition, she was like, you know what? There's going to be this was her first audition, for her first open
Ever?
audition, like, that she went on. Yes.
Oh
Which,
my
like,
God.
and she told herself, she was like, you know, it's okay. This is your first one, and you did really good. You're going to go on so many more.
No, she didn't, did she?
In the spring of her senior year, she was diagnosed with a kidney disease called glomerulonephrititis. No, it's glomerulonephritis.
I think
Hope
I'm
I
going to
said that
name
right.
my son that.
But it's not funny, actually.
No. I'm just trying to inject a little humor. In the
I know.
You're like, haha, but it's not funny, bitch.
I'm like, haha, but no, but yes.
But no.
But no. So when she was diagnosed with a kidney disease, she was actually admitted to the hospital for a month. When she was finally healthy enough to be released, her doctor told her that she could never dance again. And that she would probably never be able to have children.
Oh my God.
It'd be very dangerous.
I'm sorry,
for
wait,
her.
how old was she?
This was her senior year of college.
So she was like
just getting ready to like hit the world with her amazing dance skills. And despite, you know, her childhood and having a heart murmur and having all these conditions, and like she was constantly sick as a child. You know what I mean? It's like, and she's finally found something that she can do and that she's really good at and she's worked so hard for. And then she's basically told, nope, can't do it. So when she was healthy enough to be released, I already told you that. Okay, so people often died from this condition. And despite her parents insisting that she moved home, she remained living on her own in Manhattan in the Upper West Side. And she was like, as hard as you think it would have been for me to stop dancing, that's how hard it was for me to stop dancing. And she was like, but I did do it. And she, like, quit cold turkey. She stopped, you know, kind of going around her dance friend. Like, I mean, not, like, interacting with them, but she wouldn't, like, tease herself with the opportunity. She kind of had to like cut herself off from it a little bit.
How do you stop doing something you love cold turkey like that?
It's tough. I don't even know, honestly. But about 4 years later, she began working at Hairdo magazine because she had studied English in college and it was like a publishing job, quote unquote. And she's like, yeah, I don't know.
Hairdo magazine. All right.
But while she was working at Hairdo magazine, she became friends with a coworker named Maureen. She told Maureen all about her previous life as a dancer, and Maureen began to encourage her to work out and to try dancing again. One day, Maureen came in, and, you know, they're sitting at work, and Maureen starts, like, pushing a copy of Variety, which is a magazine for all those youngins out there that don't know that.
I was like, duh, and then I realized why you're saying it, and I got sad. Anyways,
like, I hope they have an Instagram for their sake. Anyways, so she's like pushing a copy of Variety towards Claire, and it had like an ad for an audition for a new modern dance company. And it's really funny because she's like, you know, how she describes it is she's like, yeah, Maureen was like, yeah, you should do it. Just go and do it. And Claire's like, well, I can't do it that day. I could do it the next day. And she's like, so call them and ask them. And she like says in her book, she's like, the audacity to call up someone and say, hi, I want to audition. Do you want to see me a separate day? She was like, but I did it. And she called them and they saw her on another day. And she was like, I was very surprised that worked.
Go Maureen.
Yeah, no, she just called him up. And so she auditioned, and 2 weeks after hearing nothing, because they were like, we're going to call you, we'll be in touch, she did get a call and made the cut and promptly quit her job at Hairdo magazine to join the dance company.
Yay!
Yes, a little light for Claire. So before the company's training program started, she went to speak with her kidney doctor about the risks involved. And after some scans and tests, her doctor told her that her kidneys were healed. Okay, now...
Hallelujah.
Yeah, but, like, this is insane.
Yes, it is.
She was diagnosed with a disease that people die from. I wouldn't say that it was, like, terminal. I'm not sure what her treatment was. She doesn't really go into that, but that's just crazy. She says, he showed me the medical records of another patient, a young boy who had come to the hospital with glomerulonephritis around the same time I had, and said, look at this. Your numbers are identical. You both had the same prognosis, but today you're dancing and this poor kid is dying, and I can't explain why. So basically...
Not to, like, be that person, but part of me is wondering if her physical activity helped with that.
Yeah, but she was not, like, she got in shape for the audition. I remember, like, she said, oh, I felt really out of shape, and she had been smoking, which I'm like, was that just a thing in the 80s? Or no one thought that coincided with health?
I was going to say, I feel like that was a thing in the 80s where nobody really thought about it.
Yeah, she's like, she was smoking, she said she wasn't working out, that she was actually, like, not, because she was kind of, I wouldn't say that she was depressed, but sort of in a more of depressive state of, like, I don't really know what to do with myself because I can't dance and I'm not doing what I want to do. So,
like, what do you do when people tell you, hey, you had this dream for your life and you can't do it or you'll die? Like, that's fucking bananas. Also, I would never want to do anything more than do that because I'm a weirdo. But anyways.
Yeah. You are a weirdo.
Oh, thanks. I knew that was what you were going to jump on.
That's because you know me so well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, they even said when, like, she came on after, like, to the training program after she saw her doctor, they were like, wow, that's amazing that you got so in shape and you quit smoking all for, like, so quickly. And she was like, I mean, it's not super surprising. All I needed was a reason.
Yeah. It's crazy how that works.
Yeah, she's like, once I had the motivation to do it, it was very easy. Which, good for you, girl. That is some motivation right there. Okay, so basically, yeah, thanks to Marine, Variety Magazine, and Modern Dance, and, like, this medical miracle, Claire was able to dance again. And she actually says, Marine was one of the several people who seemed to have been sent to me over the years, as if by some higher power, to move my life along in an important new direction.
It's so sweet.
I was like, because, I feel like it is common to have that as an experience.
Yeah, I think
where
so, too.
someone just kind of shows up and helps you, and then that's it, but whatever. Oh, she also defied her kidney doctor's prediction for her, because she, in 1972, after a, quote, beautiful and healthy pregnancy, had a daughter named Amara.
Yay!
Which, beautiful name, too. So fast forward to the spring of 1985, so now she's 45 years old. She's finishing up her first year as a drama teacher at Brookline High School near Boston. So at this point, she's middle-aged, and she is noticing, that she gets very tired doing small things, going up a flight of stairs. She's just getting very exhausted, but she excused a lot of it of, like, oh, I'm just middle-aged.
I was going to say,
old
you're just getting old. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's understandable for her to think that.
Right. So, one Sunday morning, and she had visited her doctor, and he basically told her, oh, you have this condition, but it's treatable. And that's kind of like, I feel like if I was in my 40s in the 80s and someone was like, oh, hey, this is why you're tired, here's some medicine for it, see you next time, I wouldn't really think about it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, one Sunday morning in 1985, Claire is eating breakfast and flipping through Parade magazine, as you did.
Mm-hmm.
And she noticed a woman about her age pictured with a story about how 4 years earlier in 1981, she had been the first person to survive a combined heart-lung transplant. So she continued reading the story to find out that this woman, Mary Golke, suffered from a, quote, very serious disease called primary pulmonary hypertension. Upon reading this, Claire says, I nearly fell off of my chair. 18 months earlier, I had been given the very same diagnosis by my own doctor, who had definitely not used the phrase very serious disease.
Yikes.
Yikes is right. He had even told her, the good news is that you won't be needing surgery. We can control this problem through medication. Which, okay. And she even says, she's like, I don't know why I didn't ask any questions, because I immediately upon reading that, and I think she like knew it as she was writing it, she's like, I know this sounds bad. It sounds like he's a bad guy. And she's like, honestly, I went back and forth as to who really had responsibility in that situation. And she was like, ultimately, I didn't ask any questions and I took it at face value. And I really didn't put any work into understanding what my situation was.
I mean, but it was also the 80s, and there wasn't like Google for you to look up like how serious your fucking illness is, and your doctor was the professional, and you listened to your doctor no matter what, and that was it. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. So, she read on about Mary's story in Parade, and she learned that PPH, primary pulmonary hypertension, was a much more serious, or was much more than just a serious condition. It was terminal.
Oh my God, he didn't even tell her that it was terminal?
No. She immediately went to her doctor upon reading this, and he explained that the word primary meant that this disease had no known cause or cure.
Huh.
So I didn't know that. So if I ever go to a doctor and they're like, oh, you have primary premenstrual syndrome, I'm going to be like, I know that that's a ridiculous example, by the way, but I just didn't have anything else on the top of my brain.
Also, how come he didn't fucking tell her that it was terminal?
She kind of goes on about that and about how it kind of just was an interesting bout. I mean, I get that, but it's like, also, it's like he caught it early in her. She wasn't. Anyways, it's problematic. I'm not gonna fucking deny that shit. But, like, she goes back and forth on it. So it definitely adds, like, an interesting level to their relationship. So, yeah. So at the time, and also, here's another thing. At the time, PPH was so rare that most doctors actually knew nothing about it. So the fact that she was diagnosed when she was is pretty miraculous, even at that. 1 out of 1 million people with PPH, or no, out of 1 million people, PPH will affect one person.
Oh, that's intense.
It is incredibly rare, and it's not only rare, but it's also the 80s, and you're right, there is no Google. You know, the communication between doctors, I'm not sure how that works, but it's like the research and all of this. This is a very new situation, and Mary Golke is like the first person who had a successful heart-lung transplant ever.
Yeah.
And who also had the same condition. So this is like very right on the cusp of all of this happening, and also it applies to Claire too. I mean, I can only imagine what that must feel like to be literally sitting in your kitchen drinking your coffee in the morning and being like, what? You know how people have that
like,
thing.
Faint. I know she said she almost fell out of her chair, but I'm like,
yeah,
surprised she didn't faint or have a panic attack or like. I'm trying to think of all the things that I would do. And like,
so she actually, I was going to bring this up later, so I might have a point where I realize this at some point. But in the 70s, she had a problem with high blood pressure. So it was probably after having her daughter, so it might have had something to do with her pregnancy. And she actually went to go see this doctor. I want to say his name is Herb Benson, but we'll verify that in a second. I'll scroll. Pardon me.
Scroll.
Yes, Herb Benson. So she sought the help of him, and he had been written up in the New York Times for his innovative work using meditation and relaxation techniques to treat physical disorders. So she practiced meditation regularly. which, like, good for you, girl. In the 80s, practicing meditation for literal she was, here's another thing. She was actually one of the many patients who lowered their blood pressure through meditation alone as part of a research project that became the basis of Dr. Benson's book, The Relaxation Response.
Ooh. Mom would like that shit.
Very, very interesting, okay? So after she found out, basically, that she was a lucky mother effing duck to even be diagnosed at the point that she was, let alone finding out by chance in a magazine that it was terminal and all this other information about it.
I wonder how many other people had lives decided by magazines in the 80s.
I mean, yeah, I guess it's like it's a cultural, difference in times, versus the 80s versus now, because I don't know, because it's just like she found that audition Variety, and then magically her kidneys are healed, and now she's reading Parade, and it's like the opposite. It's just very interesting. So at this point, Claire really takes matters into her own hands to learn as much as she could about the disease, like, despite her fears of what she might find out, which I can only imagine would be fucking terrifying.
So what did she do? Did she go to a library?
Oh, she called the National Institute of Health in Bethesda
God,
and asked for everything they had on PPH.
Oh my God.
And bought a copy of Mary Golke's book, which is called I'll Take Tomorrow, for anyone who wants to look that up. She actually looked to Mary Golke as a pioneer, as a role model, as someone to look to, because she survived this whole ordeal. And, I mean, PPH, basically, it's like you're suffocating in your own body. And you can't, like, move or do anything on your own because, like, you're basically just suffocating. Like, you can't breathe. So it's very debilitating. And she actually even reached out to Mary Golke at one point, looked her number up in the phone book, reached out to her, and called her, and Mary picked up, and she didn't even know what to say, and she was just like, oh my gosh, and then she just cried to her and was like, I have this condition, and Mary was, like, super sweet to her and was very caring and was just like, you've got this, like, you need to keep going. So a lot of Mary's, like, encouragement and what she says in her book, like, kept Claire going to the point where she was able to get a transplant.
Okay, so were they, like, the same age, or was Mary older?
Yeah.
They were
They were about the same age.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. So for everything that she read and understood, she said that PPH is often, like I said, incredibly difficult to diagnose. So she was thankful that she at least had an early diagnosis. Yeah. She also found out that the progression of PPH is different for each person. However, almost everyone with PPH had one thing in common. Within 3 to 5 years, they were dead.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So now we're in the summer of 1985.
Okay.
Claire is coming to terms with her diagnosis and how she would cope moving forward into the future. She was afraid that at this rate she would be too weak to return to school. And she was already having trouble with extreme exhaustion before the year was up. And she was, like, hiding it from her coworkers and from her students. She'd be like, oh, I forgot my notes. You go catch up. And she'd be, like, standing there, like, heaving over a desk because she was out of breath. So a friend's husband who, a friend of hers who, one of her friends' husbands, who was I keep wanting to say mortician. He is a physician named Mort. Now you understand the trouble I was having. So he suggested a medication. So she, like, confided to her friend, this is what I'm going through. This is the situation. And her husband said, have you heard about this medication called Procardia? Which she was able to get from her doctor. He said that it does really well with the symptoms of PPH, but it's not a long-term solution. So she got her doctor to prescribe it to her. She says half an hour after taking the first pill, her symptoms basically vanished.
Wow.
She was astounded. She was able to return back to school with Amara, and at this point, Amara was there as a student. which is, like, a very sweet, like, she didn't even think she could have a daughter, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And, like, that is her determination, like, that's her motivation. She's like, no, I live to see her graduate, like, that's my goal. That's my goal. Oh, man. By the end of 1987, her time on Precardio was pretty much out, was having no change in her symptoms. Like, it just, her body had kind of acclimated to it, and now she was back to where she was. So once again, her health was in rapid decline. And this is another quote: "Throughout these months, I remembered Mary Goldkey's words of encouragement. Keep going, breath by breath, moment by moment, no matter how hard it gets." Which, like, yeah. So now in April of 1988, the Yale New Haven Hospital in Connecticut was about to become the 4th medical center in the country and the first in New England to perform heart-lung transplants. The program was being built around Dr. John Baldwin, who had previously been at Stanford and was a, quote, rising star in the world of transplant surgery. He's like, I'm the only rising star here, ladies.
No.
No, you're not, Yeats. Take a walk,
God,
Yeats.
he scared me. I thought he was going to spill my wine.
No, not the wine.
Look, he snuggled up in the blanket with me. Do you hear him?
I see. He's so
No,
sweet. He always looks so grumpy and manly. Like a stodgy cat.
No, but he's so happy and loving.
No.
He loves everybody.
I feel like he's so much happier there with you.
He is, actually. He's been very happy.
It's a kitty face.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See, this is why I love cats. Give him, like, 5 seconds of affection, he's good.
Yeah, that's why I love Joe.
Okay, so sorry. He was a rising star before Yahtzee tried to rise even higher.
Thank you. And yes, he was trying to rise higher. God. Anyways. So Claire asked her doctor to reach out to Dr. Baldwin about her eligibility in the program. But by May, okay, so this is in April, that this is happening, and she's on top of it. By the way, she's also dying.
Yeah.
Like, she also, like, can't even take a shower by herself, and she is literally, like, determined to take care of her shit, which is just, you go. You go, Claire. Like, geez. So, yeah, so by May, she had come to find out that her doctor never reached out. And also he also left the country for 3 weeks. So she was just, like, hung out to dry. She had to talk to her doctor's secretary, and she was like, oh, yeah, by the way, he won't be back till, like, June. And she was like, excuse me? Okay, so Barbara Babs had been taking care of yes,
Barbie?
that's her friend. No.
Barbie is a nickname for Barbara.
Good old Babs has been taking care of Claire for the past couple years, and they're really good friends, and she's looking out for her. She's there for her, okay? So Claire told Barbara that this just happened, and she's like, yeah, I gotta call these people, and Barbara was like, give me the fucking phone, okay?
Go, Barbie.
Yeah. Go, Barbie. Let's go, Barbie.
Yeah.
Woo! Oh, man. Okay. So Barbara got through to the person in charge of the program at the time, the coordinator of the program, Gail Eddy. Yes, got through to her right away.
Wait, did you say her last name was Yeti?
Eddy.
Oh, okay.
I would love it if her last name was Yeti. That'd be like, yes.
So Barbie saved the day because women get shit done. Anyway.
Exactly. And so Gail, like, assessed Claire's situation and asked her to come in for an evaluation in 2 weeks. And Claire literally, like, after that call, she's, like, the way that she describes it, she's like, okay, I can live through 2 weeks. I can live for 2 more weeks to, like, do this. Yeah, but you got to think about how you're in this situation.
I know,
like, you're just in your body heavy. And you literally can't. Oh, it is heavy. It is heavy for sure.
Is she still alive? Is Claire still alive?
So she died in 2009.
Damn it. I was going to say, if she's still alive, I would have loved to have met her.
She was on Dr. Phil and on Oprah. So there is, like, footage of her that you could watch. So, even though at this stage Claire felt like she might be kidding herself, Gail Eddy's call really did give her hope. And that night, Claire had 2 auspicious dreams. So these are her 2 dreams. In the first one, a sharp, shiny knife floated in front of me, surrounded by a white glow. As I watched in amazement, the knife cut the neck of a baby near his Adam's apple. But I knew the baby wasn't hurt because there was no crying and no blood. In the second dream...
What if the baby was just dead? Sorry. Hi, I'm a well-adjusted grown-up. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
That's the this is the part of like FaceTime where I'm just like, yeah, I know it sounds really fucking weird, doesn't it?
Oh, good. But, I'm glad you agreed because I thought you were judging me. Anyways,
no, I was not judging you. I was like, yeah, I don't know. This was horrifying, and also her like, I love that she puts her dreams in here because I really feel like that rounds it out very well in the as far as
gives
the
a lot of
picture
insight.
goes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for those words. That was much better than what I said. So in the second dream, the transplant was already over. It had gone smoothly with no pain. And right after the operation, I was walking around. But the doctors hadn't told me that I would need to drink 4 glasses of milk each day.
Yeah.
I learned this by chance talking to somebody else.
Like she learned that she was dying by chance? Sorry. I'm never going to get over that.
No, you're right. By chance, reading a magazine, like talking to Mary Golke in her mind's eye, you're not wrong. She says it seemed clear that both dreams were strongly optimistic projections about the transplant. In the first one, the operation was painless and almost otherworldly. I was the baby, a male baby for some reason. In the second dream, I was myself, although the 4 glasses of milk did suggest a baby or a small child. In both dreams, the operation had been successful. Or that it was the fucking 80s
and people were all about milk back then.
Forgot about that. A week later, I had a third and more elaborate dream.
Ooh.
I was pregnant, but my skin was translucent, which allowed me to see the baby within.
Yikes.
It looked like a little E.T. figure as it waved its tiny hand.
That sounds like a literal nightmare.
But the baby's face was the face of my mother. I was about to give birth to my own mother.
Yeah, that's a literal nightmare. I stand by what I said originally. Like,
I know. I just wanted to get to that point, but oh my god, yes. Sorry, Mom, but like...
I mean, we love you, Mom,
this is traumatizing for anyone. No matter no, I was going to say no matter what your mother is. But I stand by that statement. In this dream, I realized later the terrestrial creature... Oh, sorry. I didn't read a whole portion of that word. The extraterrestrial creature was greeting me from his capsule in my inner world.
Ew! Ew!
Which I love how she's like, I was pregnant with my own mother. He.
Okay. I mean, who knows?
Exactly. No, it's very interesting, but I didn't realize that till just now, to be honest. From his capsule in my inner world. Although he hadn't yet arrived, he was holding up the open hand of friendship. He was my child, a harbinger.
A harbinger? Yeah, a harbinger.
That's how you say it? Okay, a harbinger of my new post-transplant self. But he was also my mother.
That's so weird!
I was carrying... it is very weird. In effect, I was carrying the embryo that would give birth to my new life. Yeah. Yeah, but I just, like, those dreams... I was like, yo.
I was pregnant with E.T., but he was also my mom.
Yeah. Yeah. That's...
No thanks.
My mind is, like, shape-shifting E.T.'s face into, like, multiple women's faces. It's upsetting.
See, I'm picturing E.T. with the blanket over his head in the bike while also shape-shifting into different women.
But he's in your inner world.
Ooh, no. It's when E.T. puts on the wig.
Okay, I like that much better, actually. Yeah, when he's like all dressed up as the doll, and he's like...
Yep. With
He's
the
Barbie.
little blonde ringlets. Like,
yeah. Maybe that's what like, E.T. and Barbie.
Yep. It's Barbie.
Yeah. It's E.T.'s world, and we're just living in it. Okay, so the 2 weeks go by. And Claire goes in for her evaluation with Gail. And now Claire has already, like I said, done an evaluation with John Hopkins the year before. No success getting a transplant. And she says, the evaluation at Yale was much shorter and much simpler than the one at Hopkins. Gail brought me in to meet Dr. Baldwin. And even though they were interviewing me, I also felt like I was interviewing them. So she's back in her apartment the next day after the evaluation. Claire said she was reading the patient handbook that Gail had given her. And Barbara came over to talk to her about how it all went with Gail in the evaluation while they were eating chocolate cake and vanilla ice cream.
Good choice.
The phone rang. Yeah, I know. It was a good choice. But yeah, while they were chilling, the fucking phone rang. Claire picked it up to hear Gail Eddy's voice on the other line saying, Claire, it's Gail Eddy. 17 hours ago, just after you left, we received permission to open the program. We listed you right away, and we have a donor for you today.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Yeah, talk about how I'll just live for 2 more weeks, and then they're like, hi, hello, and she's like, oh, thank God. So, obviously, the procedure was a success.
Yay.
And, yes, hooray! Some relief for Claire, and much to her own amazement, 3 days after the surgery, she was up on an exercise bike.
Bruh.
Yeah, that was part of the recovery, for her heart and lung transplant. So, because this was the first successful heart and lung transplant in New England...
so, hers wasn't the first heart and lung transplant ever. It was just in New England.
Correct.
Okay.
And, but it had generated a lot of attention from the media. So, on the 3rd day, right when she, had her little exercise bike, which she, could not do anything at all. They told her that her half of her heart, the right half of her heart, was in total failure when she came in for the transplant. They also told her that her lungs were like tissue paper, and that there were a couple of times they couldn't even find a pulse because she was just so that's the point that she was at. She does describe this really astounding moment where she realized that the heart that she had, she had a heart murmur ever since she was 3. And she describes this moment where she realizes this heart has never had a heart. She's like, oh, I don't have a heart murmur anymore. That was the thought that she had. And then she goes, I have a whole new heart.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what that would feel like.
And you also have to consider the size of somebody else's organs. We're not all Lego people. You can't just stick everyone together. So they had to move her heart from where it was and put it farther back in her chest cavity to make it fit with the lungs, because obviously they're from a different person. So when she woke up, she had asked them, she was like, it feels different. I feel it beating in my back. And the nurse told her, oh, don't worry about it. It's in your head. And she brought it up to the doctor. The doctor was like, no, we did put it further back because we needed to fit it correctly and comfortably for you. And so this is how in tune she is with her body.
See, I never really feel my heart, but I feel it in my neck a lot.
See, I've always been able to feel it between my ribs, and when I lay on my side, I can feel it beat against my ribs, which I don't know if it's just my pulse or my heart. I'm not sure what's going on inside my chest cavity personally. I just know that that's what it feels like. It feels like my heart is beating on my ribs.
So do you think that it would feel different, too, if the lungs and heart were heavier?
Yeah. Than yours? Yeah, it had a greater mass, I'm sure, probably. And also you have to, again, they described her lungs as tissue paper. Tissue paper. Yeah. My ship would tear through yours like tissue paper.
how does an alien know what tissue paper is?
That's such a great question. Fucking, what's his name? Lobsterhead?
Oh my god, what is his name? Saris.
Anyways, okay, so, yeah. So, the third day after the transplant, the reporters were actually able to go to the hospital and interview Claire, which, like, what a time
I know, right?
fucking pandemic. Woof. I cannot imagine that now. I'd be terrified. But Claire says in the book, she goes, I was so delighted to be moving again that I clowned around and climbed on the bike where I posed for a picture with a paper cup on my head. So, she's on the bike with the paper cup on her head. And she's probably gotten off at this point, but she's with the reporters, and one of the reporters asks, Claire, now that you've had this miracle, what do you want more than anything else? And she said, actually, I'm dying for a beer right now. She goes, as soon as those words came out of my mouth, I wished I could pull them back in. I was mortified that I had answered this sincere question with such a flippant response. I was also surprised because I didn't even like beer. At least I never had before, but the craving I felt at that moment was specifically for the taste of beer. For some bizarre reason, I was convinced that nothing else would quench my thirst. So she says, when I acquired a new heart, I also acquired a new rhythm, new impulses, new knowledge, and new questions.
Oh my god.
I found myself on a fascinating and mysterious journey that I hadn't anticipated and wasn't prepared for. A journey that was occasionally frightening and sometimes euphoric. My journey began with the transplant, or perhaps earlier, but I didn't fully understand that I was already on it until 5 months after the operation when I had an unusually vivid dream. So we've already heard a couple of Claire's dreams. Pre-op. Here's a post-op dream for y'all. It's a warm summer day. I'm standing in an open outside place, a grassy field. With me is a young man who is tall, thin, and wiry with sandy-colored hair. And his name is Tim. I think his last name might be Layton, but I'm not sure. I think of him as Tim L. We're in a playful relationship, and we're good friends. The time has come for me to leave him, to join a performing group of acrobats. I start walking down a path away from Tim. Suddenly I turn around, feeling that something remains unfinished between us. I walk back toward him and say goodbye. Tim watches me as I come closer, and he seems to be pleased that I am making my way back to him. We kiss. And as we do, I inhale him into me. It feels like the deepest breath I have ever taken, and I know that at that moment, the two of us, Tim and I, will be together forever.
Oh my god.
Yeah. She goes on. I awoke from the dream exhilarated, as though I had just taken the deepest breath of my life. Until now, I had thought of my heart and lungs as having come from an anonymous stranger, an unknown young man who I hadn't thought much about. But when this dream was over, something had changed. I woke up really knowing, that Tim L. was my donor, and that some parts of his spirit and personality were now in me.
Bruh.
Yeah. I was eager to verify this information, but how? The transplant program at Yale New Haven Hospital, where she received her heart and lungs, observed a strict code of confidentiality. Strictly speaking, I wasn't even supposed to know what little I did, that my donor was an 18-year-old boy, that he lived in Maine, and that he died on a motorcycle. I had heard these things from a nurse shortly after my operation. The day after the dream, I called Gail Eddy, the transplant coordinator at the Yale New Haven Hospital, who had been enormously helpful to me before, during, and after the operation. I knew that Gail couldn't tell me who my donor was, but perhaps she would be willing to confirm the name of Tim L. from my dream, assuming, of course, that my information was correct. At first, I thought it was. When I told Gail the dream and asked whether my donor's name was Tim L., there was a momentary pause. She says, Gail said, No, you can't know that. Gail said, I'm not even supposed to discuss this with you. Please, Claire, let it go. Even if you succeed in tracking down the family, you just to be opening a can of worms. Claire says, what do you mean? And Gail says, you can never predict how a donor's family will respond. People in these situations have unexpected reactions. If you're curious about the donor, I don't blame you. I'd be curious too. But please let it go. This whole topic is too emotional and too volatile. Claire says, I was disappointed by Gail's response and a little surprised, but I respected her judgment and assured her that I would drop the subject. But the subject refused to drop me. So at first, she accepted her advice to, leave it alone, but she continued to experience disturbing, unfamiliar feelings, and appetite changes. She had a strange new desire to drink beer and eat chicken nuggets and other junk food. She had a profound sense that the very center of her being was not hers.
Whew.
Yeah.
That is heavy.
Yeah. So, like Humpty Dumpty, as she puts it, she had experienced a traumatic breaking apart. Her surgeon had put her body back together, but not her emotions. Claire says, the new reconstructed person just wasn't me. The mysterious entity that was in her body reminded her of a pregnancy, when she felt she embodied something foreign and beyond my control, yet terribly precious and vulnerable, as if a second soul were sharing my body.
Oh my God, I have so many chills. Okay. Real quick. So I moved into this new place.
Mm-hmm.
And, I bought a couple of decently priced antiques.
Mm-hmm.
And, they're antiques, so you figure they're old. And, my thought is, I wonder who first bought the desk, or it was a vanity. Who bought the vanity, who took care of it, who used it, that kind of stuff. And you think about that stuff with, antiques or, old houses, because that type of thing. There's echoes because it's been there, but, that's not something that I don't think people think about when they think about, organ donors.
Yeah, and it's been well documented. It's not just heart transplants. It's not just lung transplants. It's kidney transplants. It's other people have experienced the same phenomena. But she just really,
explained it well.
She explained it well, but she also, she was seeking people out from day one and was, working with as I mentioned this earlier, she was, working with a Jungian analyst, so she started going to the support group that Gail recommended to her. I'm pretty sure it was Gail. Recommended to her. She's like, please come to the support group for people who have had heart transplants. It'll help. And, so she started talking with people there and then sought out the help of this analyst and ended up, I swear I bring it up another point, but maybe I didn't. Maybe I left it. Anyways, but the point is that they started a group study on this phenomenon. Oh my God, now I actually have to look it up because I know it's in here. But what someone recommended that if she ever wanted to work on her dreams in depth, the man to see was Robert Bosnak, a Jungian analyst, okay? During their initial meetings, whenever she mentioned the transplant or its effect on her, he almost seemed transfixed. So then she found out, because she finally asked him about it, and he told her that for the last few years, he had been writing a novel about a man who undergoes a heart transplant. His novel was about a psychiatrist and his girlfriend who were both victims of a violent attack. The girlfriend is killed, and the psychiatrist is so badly wounded that he requires a new heart, which she provides. When he finally recovers, the psychiatrist realizes that he is feeling and reacting to events differently than he used to, as though his girlfriend was still influencing him. He gradually comes to know her from the inside, as it were, through... Stop. He gradually comes to know her from the inside, as it were.
Stop it. God.
through the surprising responses of his new heart, which used to be hers. Yeah. Yeah, so he, so she was like, hi, there's a ton of parallels between our two stories. But anyways.
Yeah, but his was a fictional one, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And he was like, holy shit, this is a real thing, basically, when they were hanging out together. But that was, she was seeing him as like a patient, and he was her therapist, through this.
What?
Not seeing him. I mean, like, their meetings.
No, I knew what you meant.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but they, she talked about the fact, this is what she says. I boldly asked if he might be interested in teaming up with me on a book about dreams and psychological responses of heart transplants. We both recognized the literary partnership would infringe on the traditional boundaries of therapist and client. The subject seemed so exciting that we agreed to try it. So then they started this little focus group of people that she was already in a support group with, where they talked about their dreams and like their own experiences that they were going through for their research. So, so they started the support group that echoed many of her perceptions about feeling a quote-unquote hybrid. And a lot of the times, people in the support group talked about themselves as the transplant. Like, they, were inhabited by somebody else.
Oh, my gosh.
Like, they could feel it physically, and that they were transplanted to this person's organs, not the other way around. So there's a whole... I honestly didn't know anything really about organ transplants or like that sort of world until reading about this. And there is just like a lot psychologically, a lot of aspects that really fall into this situation that are very interesting. And I was very glad to educate myself on those. So just a little tidbit about that. So it wasn't until 1990, actually, this happened so quickly now that I'm thinking about this. So this was all like within a year because she had her operation in 1988. So 1990 is when she actually traced the identity of her donor through his obituary in a local paper. His name was Tim, and his last name did begin with an L.
Wow.
Yeah. So she had moved back to Hull in May 1st of 1991. So she found his obituary in 1990, but she actually reached out in 91.
Wow, she sat on that for a year?
Yeah, she had another dream about Tim. She said he was wearing a black cape. He was about to ascend to a high place that looked like a horizon. Where are you going? I asked him. To die, he replied. I'm going to the other side. What's it like over there? Oh, I come right back. He was pretty sure of himself and had apparently done this before. Going back and forth seemed to be a routine adventure for him. As in the ghost dream, walls and boundaries that were normally solid had become permeable. So Tim was following me to Hull, and also leading me to his family. The very day I moved here, to a house with a sweeping view of a horizon, Tim had appeared in a dream about the horizon. As soon as I woke up from this dream, I knew it was time to contact the family. Almost 9 months had passed since I had found the obituary, but I had yet to act on it. So she wrote him a letter.
Yeah.
So when Sylvia eventually... Oh, so another thing is she writes him a letter and contacts them, and then Barbara asks her, why do you want to contact the family? Like, what do you want from this? And she realizes at that point that she didn't even know why. She just had this urge, like she had to contact them. But she had never actually thought, why? What will I gain from this experience? Which is just another thing for me, really, of just like something else is pushing her to do this.
Yeah, I was going to say, like this alternate instinct.
Yeah. So she eventually visited the family and learned that Tim had been restlessly energetic with a love for chicken nuggets, junk food, and beer. Hi, no surprise there.
Mm-hmm.
And Claire then, like, consulted a range of what she called open-minded scientists, and several came up with the notion of cellular memory, meaning that the cells in our body are instilled with our memories. One of these people that she contacted and spoke to was Bernie Siegel, aka Dr. Bernie Siegel, aka pediatric and general surgeon Dr. Bernie Siegel, who wrote The Art of Healing, which I did not know that. Yeah, he wrote the foreword to her freaking book.
Wow.
Yeah. He wrote the foreword to her book, and he said, "While I can't necessarily explain the amazing things that have happened to Claire, I have no trouble believing them. Although doctors tend to shy away from metaphysics, science and the spirit don't have to be at odds. That is why I enjoy speaking with astronomers and quantum physicists who are continually dealing with mysterious and unexplained events. I look forward to the day when physicians too will be comfortable acknowledging and accepting the mysteries all around us." So, I read literally the first few pages of this book. I skipped the forward because I always get caught up in the forward and be like, oh, this means a lot. Okay, then I found out that Bernie Siegel wrote the forward, and I was like, what am I doing? So,
how are you related? I never read the forward.
I always do, and I get super sucked into it, and then I'm like, well, I just read all this.
Okay, never mind. That sounds about right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm reading the first couple pages of her freaking book where she brings up the memories and the heart pump, and it's just a pump, and it's this mandatory machine, and I immediately went to the first pages of Bernie Siegel's. I was like, oh my god, I just read about this, and because in the first couple pages of his book, he brings up The Psychobiology of Gene Expression by Ernest Rossi, go look it up, and that's where he talks about how we store memories genetically. Here's an excerpt from his book. It says, knowledge and memories are stored not only in our brains, but also in the cells of our bodies. Consciousness can be experienced as a universal field that affects us all, and studies by quantum physicists have verified this.
I want to punch you so much.
Why?
All good reasons.
Oh, okay. This is like a boo-boo slap in the face?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Okay, so going on to prove his little point here, he then mentions The Field by Lynn McTaggart, which all of these books are in my Amazon cart, but I had to deal with myself. I had to read this one first. The book description for Lynn McTaggart's book, The Field, literally says this. A book which gives scientific proof of the paranormal. Done. Thank you. I'll buy it now.
Say, hey, can you also order me one and send it to me, please?
Gladly. I would love to.
You have my new address now.
I have some creepy patches to send you, so I would love to send you a book too. Psychic activity, remote viewing, the power of prayer, and homeopathy are all discussed. The energy found in the vacuum or the 0-point field seems to be the key to all sorts of unexplained phenomena. And a quote from her book, she says, quantum physicists discovered a strange property called non-locality, which is the ability of a quantum entity, such as an individual electron, to influence another quantum particle instantaneously over any distance, despite there being no exchange of force or energy. Basically, once any form of contact happens between quantum particles, they retain a connection even when they are separated, so the actions of one will always influence the another, no matter how far they get separated physically. So that makes me think of Tim in his ephemeral being and his quantum connection with his organs, right? There's no matter how far they get separated physically, they are still always connected.
Yeah, exactly.
Another way that somebody describes it, because she sought out so many people and continued to study this, as far as I know, to the rest of her life. Like, she just continued to seek this out and be like, I need to know all about this. She says, I asked Bruce Lipton, a former Stanford research scientist who was trained in cellular development and biology, about transplant recipients and how that might apply. And he says, transplanted heart comes with the donor's unique set of self-receptors, which differ naturally from those of the recipient.
I have chills again.
No. As a result, the recipient now possesses cells which respond to two different quote-unquote identities.
Oh my god. Sorry. I'm sorry.
No, I'm like all for it. I'm like right there with you. You can tell I'm all hyped now. Mm-hmm. Not every recipient will sense that set of cells within their body, but Not every recipient will sense that a set of cells within their body is now responding to a second signal. But if anyone is going to experience this change, it might well be a dancer who is acutely aware of her own body. As more and more transplants are performed, I think we'll see a growing number of people reporting these experiences. Here's another way to look at it. You're listening to a portable radio and the batteries go dead. Did the broadcast stop? Of course not. You can put in new batteries, or you can get another radio and tune it to the same station. Our biological bodies are like cellular radios, and each of our cells is tuned to the same station through our molecular antennae. Our identities are the stations, and even if we die, if our cells are still tuned to our station, they'll still play it, even if those cells are now in another person's body.
Okay, this also just makes me think, I don't know, maybe just because I just bought some antiques, but it just makes me wonder how a similar theory might apply to, like, either old houses or old furniture, or, you know what I mean? Like,
to me, it's like the quantum, connection is really what it is. It's like in this theory, it's like he is connected to his organs. You are it's like we were created from nothing. This is the body that we started in. If we were put in somebody else's body, it's like this is the starting software, this is the operating system. And now I have to go to somebody else. It's like taking a Mac hard drive and putting it in a PC.
I stopped saying things because my brain could not compute.
No, yeah. And it's like, and so the whole non-locality thing, okay, so observers recognize that it explains certain phenomena, such as animals knowing skills that they weren't taught, which was this example that Ernest Rossi brings up in his Psychobiology of Gene Expression of milk deliveries in England. When, prior to World War II, milk was being delivered on people's doorsteps. Eventually, birds learned how to peck off the lids to get to the milk. During World War II, all milk deliveries stopped. After the war, when the milk deliveries resumed, birds instinctively knew how to get straight to the caps, when this is a new generation of birds that were never physically taught how to get to it.
Okay, wait.
So his whole theory is that memory is also, it's like not just in our cells, it's in our genes, which then of course goes straight to your DNA.
And I'm sure there's like,
yeah, and that's another thing about her specifically is that she did practice meditation for 20 years. She was very into, studying her dreams. She did dream journals, like, for her whole life, it's like she's super in tune and aware to this situation. So I feel like the experience is automatically going to be much more intense for someone of that, like, background. But it's just what a wonderful example of connecting the two schools of thought of spiritual and mindfulness and this otherworldly kind of existence, consciousness, just like it's just on the edge of what we can prove and what we can actually document. You know what I mean?
Versus like what we can sense without proof.
And what we have stories of. And it's just very interesting. She has a couple more examples of just enforcing this same theory. Mm-hmm. So Paul Purcell, the neuropsychologist, writing a book about heart recipients, she asked him, about in terms of energy that exists in our bodies. And he says, anyone who receives a new heart is like is getting a big ball of subtle energy. Ancient cultures have known about subtle energy throughout history and have viewed it as a vital force of all creation. The indigenous peoples of the world have more than 100 different names for this force, and unlike us, they have always placed their faith in its power. The Chinese call it Qi, the Japanese call it Ki. In Hawaii, it's known as mana. Mana is the spirit of life itself and the place where memories are stored. Physicists call this energy the fifth force. It's the same energy that keeps messing up the controlled, quote-unquote, experiments of scientists and accounts for, quote-unquote, spontaneous remissions in so-called terminal cases. He says, I don't have much doubt about cellular memory. The more interesting question to me is, why do some people have these experiences and not others? What I've learned from dozens of organ recipients I've interviewed is that the individuals who feel these changes are unusually aware of their bodies. They are often artists, painters, or poets, creative people, in other words, who are introspective and paying attention. So Paul Persall referred her to the HeartMath Institute in Boulder Creek, California, where researchers were studying the energy of the heart as well as the connection and possible communication between the heart and the brain. Roland McCratty, the Institute's research director, says, your experiences are not unique. That's what he told her. He goes, a number of physicians have come to our institute, and over the years I've heard stories like this. One cardiac surgeon told me that he had observed this phenomenon, which includes personality changes and cravings for new food, and that it actually fades a few months after the transplant. It's not something surgeons want publicized, and they keep it very quiet. We know from recent research that the heart is a far more intelligent organ than we thought.
Wow.
I know, and it's like,
That's
and this
intense.
is, when did, you know what I mean? It is very intense, and it's like, I don't know, I'm just saying, it's like, it's so interesting. Anyways, the heart is much more intelligent than we thought. It now appears that the heart has its own intrinsic nervous system, which Dr. Andrew Armour, the author of Neurocardiology, calls the little brain in the heart.
Oh my
unquote.
God.
Yep. Another possible clue might come from a recent discovery in Boston in 1995. Dr. Ming-He Huang, a Harvard Medical School researcher, discovered a new type of cell in the heart. These were called intrinsic cardiac ICA cells. That's what we're going to call them.
Okay.
Seem to synthesize and release catecholamines. There we go. A group name for a bunch of different chemicals like dopamine, which used to be thought of as exclusive to the brain. ICA cells have magnetic properties, which further suggests that the heart can respond and interact with magnetic fields. Which, like, duh, but also nice to see proof of that.
Yeah.
A similar type of magnetic cell can be found in the brain. There may well be an electromagnetic connection between the heart and the brain, and the discovery of these new cells seem to support that possibility. In our enlightened scientific era, we still refer to the heart when we discuss our feelings and our values. When love dies or death strikes, we speak of being brokenhearted. When we take heart and lose heart all the time. When we want to be demonstrative, we wear our heart on our sleeve. When a person is insensitive, we say they are heartless. Pure heart, aching heart, soft heart, valiant heart, noble heart, tender heart, understanding heart, the list goes on. And that is literally like how I feel about this guy who's like, yeah, and also it has a magnetic connection to things. Also, it has its own nervous system. Also, it's magnetically connected to the brain. Hello, the whole heart versus brain complex.
Yeah.
It's just so interesting how the two are connected of like this groupthink intuition. And now it's like, yes, memories are stored in cells. And also, there's this other connection that's going on, which I want to do more research on, but I had to stick to the book because I really wanted to get through that.
It's very interesting. It's very interesting.
Basically, everything is fucking connected, you guys.
So wait. So she did connect with the family, though, and they did hear his heartbeat in her chest?
Yeah.
It was a really good topic.
Thanks, man. I really was very excited to cover it. Super excited to learn about it. And while I'm sure there is much more updated information out there, go forth and research and learn with us. Like, that is the most interesting part to me about learning these things and about researching things that we don't know about, is that I really honestly do have a hopeful belief in the world that everything is connected, and it's things like this that sort of reiterate that for me personally.
Like I said at the beginning of the episode, like, I know some people, find comfort or, believe that they're, the world is just chaos, there's no meaning in anything, nothing's really connected. And like you said, if that's what you believe, like, that's cool for you, man, but, like, I just don't see it.
All right, so thank you so much for joining us and listening to our mystical wonderings, our wonderments, and obviously you are all wonderful, which is very wonderful. You're very wonderful.
Yeah, V.
Okay. Okay. You can find us on Instagram at wonderlust.pod. I did that for you.
Mm-hmm. And by you, she means me.
You can also email us at thewonderlustpodcast@gmail.com. Send us your suggestions for stories for us to cover. We would love it. We'll read it, and we'll get super jazzed about it. We're also on Facebook, so you can rush right over there and like us. Give us a little click. We can guarantee there will be a lot of weird posts on there, at least. Probably pictures from our childhood, pictures of our pets. So basically all the content that you've been looking for all along in life.
Yeah, leave us a review and a rating and subscribe. And hopefully you like listening to us. And we promise it won't be 5 hours when, it makes it to on the air. So
No. 5 hours. What? Sarah, you're talking crazy talk. I don't even know what you're talking about. She's in a time warp, you guys.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, thanks for listening to us. And, don't forget, if you really think about it, everything is weird.
And so are you.
And so are you.
And so are you.
Okay.